Well, hello and welcome to the very first proper lesson of Simple Spanish with myself here. My name is Rick. If you've not already watched the intro to this, well, I'm going to say course, I suppose, just click pause on this one, go and jump onto the first one because it's the reason why and how you're going to be able to learn the basics of Spanish or grasp the basics of Spanish. What I found was I was teaching Spanish all last year. I was actually giving people the building blocks to be able to go on and actually teach themselves because they actually know the fundamentals, they know the rules, and they know the basics of it really. And that's really what I was trying to achieve. And that's had some great results. So I thought, well, why not bring it online? There's a lot of people that are going to come over to Tenerife. And when they're coming over to Tenerife, they don't want to look like the silly Englishman where they can't say a word, and they'd like to actually try and converse a little bit. So rather than actually doing textbook Spanish, what I decided to do was show you how I taught myself, and I used this process also when I went to learn Dutch and Flemish, and I got myself fluent in those languages, and on this one here I'm mostly about 70% fluent. So without further ado, I asked you in the last ones just to get yourself a pen and a piece of paper, a couple little bits of explaining to do of how we're going to do it. But we're going to start off straight away. Let's start off with the first Spanish word that we can use. And the first Spanish word is Spanish for hello. Hola. Very simple. Hola. Now, as you can see, I've written it down below. It's actually with a H, but the H is always silent. So that's the first rule in Spain that you've learned, is that whenever a word starts with H, it's actually a silent H. So it's not hola, it's actually hola. And that's how the Spanish will say it. The next one we normally do is how are you? Now, there's two ways you can say how are you, but what we'll do is I'll show you the first one, then I'll show you the second one, and then the reason why we use the second one. How are you? What they'll say is, the first way they'll say it is, ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? Just repeat it. ¿Cómo estás? The other one is the one I like, and the other one is actually two words again. ¿Qué tal? ¿Qué tal? ¿Qué tal? Right. So why do I prefer that one? What you tend to find in Tenerife is fantastic. The people, as you walk through the streets, are not as private as the Brits. They'll actually look at each other in the eye as they pass each other by on the street. And what they'll do is I actually roll those three words together whenever I speak to somebody. I'll actually go, hola, ¿qué tal? And I'll just roll all three together. And really what I'm actually saying is like an Englishman, I'm going, hi, you all right? Hola, ¿qué tal? I'm not waiting for an answer to come back. I don't expect, the woman to go, let me tell you about my mother-in-law, she's doing this and that and the other. It is literally just an acknowledgement going, hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Actually really means, how are you? And then if I was at the petrol station and they were putting some fuel in the car and I literally went, hola, ¿cómo estás? They might actually think that I'm actually genuinely asking them how they are, rather than just going, hi, you all right? So what I prefer myself is, hola, ¿qué tal? And I use that all together and roll it through. Hola, ¿qué tal? And there's your start. You've now been able to introduce yourself. If I walked into a bank and I stood in front of a teller, I'd actually start my conversation, hola, ¿qué tal? And then I'd begin my sentences. If I was in a shop and I got eye contact with somebody, hola, ¿qué tal? And that's very, very simple how we use it. So it's the three that I'd roll together. So the idea of the language is actually to stretch yourself when you're actually doing it. Everybody can say hola, but if you stretch it and say, no, I want to use some more words here, what will happen is the actual vocabulary in your brain will actually broaden as well, and you get more and more confident with it. So there's your first one. Hola, ¿qué tal? Simple, isn't it? So what happens if you're sitting down and somebody comes up to you and then says, hola, ¿qué tal? You're going to have to answer them. And unfortunately what happens then, in the psychology side of it, is people then get what's called the rabbit in the headlights. Where they go, oh, I'm going to have to answer. And then the mind goes blank. So what we're trying to do is, when we're doing this is, first of all, in psychology, accept that's going to happen. Don't panic for it, because normally when that happens, that's when people just stop and they go, I can't do the language, I freeze. You need to know that's a learning part, that's a learning process, that will happen. People are expecting that, and you've got to go through that to actually come out the other side of it. So don't be afraid of it. The answer then, you've really got to answer a couple of ways. You've either got to say, I'm good, and the word for Spanish for good is actually bien, B-I-E-N, bien. Some people, most of the time, again, because it's easy to roll, will actually say muy bien. Now you can see it's spelled M-U-Y, but it's actually pronounced a little bit more muy. So it's like a cow will moo, and then you go to the toilet for a wee, so it's muy bien. So then when you throw that together, it sounds a little bit smoother. Some people then will put on the end of it as well, thank you. So muy bien, gracias. Now gracias, or gracias, the spelling is the same. We know gracias or gracias means thank you, but what you can hear is it's being said in two different ways. Let's get a little bit around that first of all. If you're in America, and you hear somebody walking in America, they're on a pavement, and you go, I'm walking here. You can hear the accents that they have. You hear a Geordie, well, I'm walking down the road like you, nah. Everybody's got different accents, and the Spanish is exactly the same across the board, all Catalonia, all the way across. So my accent will be all over the place because it's what I learn, but it will still be understood. So when somebody says, hola, ¿qué tal? I can answer very simple, muy bien, gracias. If you want to say you're not very well, you can sometimes say fatal, which is actually fatal when you think about it. So therefore you can come across that you're not very well. I like this one. There was a Scottish lad that I used to teach, and he used to always say phenomenal. Because it's great, because he's phenomenal. The guy was such an outgoing person, and that phenomenal is a really good way of saying it and answering it. There's even one other one that you can go, estupendo, which sounds the same. It's itself, isn't it? It's stupendous. But what happens is these words are very close to the English language that dance along the line of English that we shouldn't really forget, and we can then use them when we come back over. So, hola, ¿qué tal? Muy bien, gracias. Hola, ¿qué tal? Fenomenal, gracias. Hola, ¿qué tal? Estupendo. Now, if somebody then says that to me, and I then want to answer them back to see how they're doing, I could actually turn around and go, ¿Y tú qué tal? Now, there's a couple of little words in there, because we know that ¿qué tal means, are you alright? Is it alright? But ¿y tú? Now, ¿y is just the letter Y. Tú is TU. So actually it comes out as, and you? How are you? And then they will answer, muy bien, gracias. And from there, what you actually base now is you've based up your whole welcoming to start off with. Now that could be either, as I said before, in a bank, it can be in a supermarket, in a shop. When I walk into a shop, hola, ¿qué tal? And you can say that as well. So that's a very easy one to remember. And it's just get used to the fluency of it, using all three together. And I think you'll find it'll, it'll put a smile on people's faces, certainly when you actually come over here and come to meet people. Okay, so that's one way of actually getting to know people. Another way, sometimes when you walk into an area and you actually want to say to people the actual good morning or good afternoon or good night, obviously there are going to be different words that we use for those. One of the things that you need to think about it is when you are, if you think, do you remember the old Harry Enfield, when, was it Mr. Chumley Warner, it was like, hello, good morning, how are you? A lot of Spanish that gets taught to people is that style of Spanish as well. The trouble is, people over here or people in mainland Spain don't speak like that. What they'll do is they'll slang it down. Literally, they'll slang it down. You first of all just need to understand what the actual proper Spanish is before we can then slang it down. And then the reason why I teach you the slang it down version is because you'll hear that when you're walking around, and it won't confuse you too much. So the first we're going to use is actually the very simple, good morning. And good morning is two words. It's buenos dias, and they'll say it buenos dias. Now repeat after me, buenos dias. Buenos dias. Okay. Now I just told you that means good morning. If I literally translate it, it actually means good days. Because dia is a day and dias is days. So good days. That's what they tend to say for good morning. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. And that's good afternoon. Now, what will tend to happen over here in Spain is that buenos dias to buenas tardes change will actually happen around about 2 o'clock, because we don't. The Spanish don't eat their lunch at 12 o'clock on the noon. Do you know those people go, well, I think you'll find it's 12:01, so therefore it must be good afternoon. It doesn't happen over here. It's a slow transition over. The other thing that you might have noticed is with buenos dias and buenas tardes, the good is actually spelled differently. And the reason why it's spelled differently is very, very simple, is because Spanish is a Latin-based language, and in Latin languages, you will have male and female all the way through them. Now, I know that scares people. Don't worry about it. If you don't get it right, General Franco is not going to shoot you. You're going to be fine, okay? So, Germany, der, die, and das. In French, they have le and la. And over here, they will actually put sometimes with an O or with an A in it. And it's just very simple. If you get it wrong, it doesn't matter, because at least you're trying, and that's the most important thing. So, buenos dias, buenas tardes. And the final one, buenas noches, which is good night. Buenas noches. Okay, why is that important? When I go into the bars, or I go into a restaurant, or I walk into a shop, a lot of the time you'll hear, hola, buena. Now what you hear there is something completely different. Hola, buena. Now actually what they've done is they've slanged down the buenos dias, buenas tardes, buenas noches, and turned it into buena. So therefore what you'll hear sometimes is, hola, buena. And that's actually quite an acceptable way, the same as going, hola, ¿qué tal? It's a very acceptable way of actually saying, hello, how are you doing? Are you all right? We've got your acceptance when you walk in to see somebody, or if you're passing somebody on the street. You don't need to feel embarrassed. You don't have to say hello. You can literally, hola, ¿qué tal? Hola, ¿qué tal? Hola, buena. Hola, buenos días. Hola, buenas noches. Hola, buenas tardes. You've got all these little things that you can start to use. And what happens if you're leaving? Now, if you're leaving a place, very, very easy to say, adios. Adios is a very popular one. Adios. It sounds a little bit lost all on its own. So what we find over here in Tenerife is the Italian factors come in, and a lot of people tend to say ciao, adios. So the ciao is actually coming in. It's quite acceptable over here in Tenerife at the moment, and that's quite simple to say. There are a couple of other ones that we can use, which is very simple. We use one which is called hasta pronto. Hasta pronto. Now again, it's spelled with a H, so the H is a silent H. So it's hasta pronto. Now hasta pronto normally tends to mean I'll see you soon. Okay? Now, I don't tend to use that very much unless if I've sat down in front of somebody, left my phone in the car and I say, I'm going to be right back, hasta pronto, and then I'll use that one, okay? A much more popular one that we tend to use is hasta luego. Hasta luego. 2 words, hasta luego. Now again, if you can hear it, it's just lost in the mouth, luego. And there is a G on there, but the G is pretty much a silent style of a G, luego. Now what happens there, that actually means I'll see you later. Now that doesn't stipulate a day, a date, a time, or whenever it's going to be. It's just I'm going to see you later. So hasta luego, ciao, adios, hasta luego. You'll roll those 3 together, ciao, adios, and hasta luego, and that really is just a decent way of actually saying to somebody goodbye, see you later, see you soon. There is another one that people use as well, which you might have heard, hasta mañana, mañana. Now mañana, very simple again, it actually means tomorrow. So hasta mañana, until tomorrow, because hasta actually translates over to until. So hasta mañana, and then you've got until tomorrow. So there's 3 of the ways of actually saying goodbye. Now, as I said to you, this style of lesson, it's only going to be 5 or 6, 7 minutes long. I don't want to take up too much people's times. But what I want to do is just give something that people can then actually remember, and then people can just try and go back to if they need to, and then understand the reason why why we speak the way people are speaking the way they're speaking, not just literally parrot fashion telling people this is how to say it. If you understand why it's being said, it makes it a lot easier to do. So the proper words today, hola, ¿qué tal? Hola, ¿cómo estás? As well, very good. But hola, ¿qué tal? Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches. Hola, buenas. Adiós. Ciao, adiós. Hasta pronto. Hasta luego. That's enough for the first one. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, leave the comments below, because it's really, it's just something I'm trying out to see if it works. I genuinely believe that the way I'd learnt myself the other languages and this language, I'm on the path to actually being communicative rather than actually being textbook. And I think the communicative one is the way that people want to move forward as they're going through. Through these lessons, I will also be teaching people some lip-loaded stuff. Like I call it a how to get out of jail free card. It's when somebody just fires back at you in Spanish and you get the rabbit in the headlights and you want to stop and take control. I'll be teaching those phrases where I do suggest you learn those parrot fashion. But at the moment, what we're going to do is there's 3 different styles of language to learn. The first one we've got to learn the words. Some words we have to learn. We just need to know. If you don't know the words, we need to learn the words. The second thing we need to learn is how we put these words together to create the sentences. But then the third thing we do learn is also what I say, the parrot fashion sentences themselves, which will help you. I call it the get out of jail free cards, which means that people can then understand you as well. So if you've liked it, as I said before, don't forget to like and subscribe. Just leave the comments below, whatever it is you want to say. I'll try and get back to everyone. I'm keeping it as small as possible, really. That's why it's not jumping on our other channels that we have, and it's just staying on this one for people that are seriously looking at it. Thanks a lot for taking the time to join me, and thanks a lot for taking the time to listen. A couple of days' time, I'll put another one up as well, and we'll just move on from there, and you'll be amazed, really, at how much you already know or how much you're going to learn from it, okay? So for myself, what I'll say is ciao, adios, hasta luego, all the best. Cheers, guys.